This camera angle is terrible. Hold on, let me adjust this. Hey everyone, welcome to my brand new channel. I say brand new, rehash of an old channel, I guess. This is the second attempt of doing a book related channel. I was going to start this in September actually, but I had a really bad reading month in September. So surprisingly, a really good reading month in October, where I read 5 books. Now it's not won't be breaking any records with the amount of books I've read this month, um, but it's impressive for me considering I have a really busy work schedule. I work in hospitality, and obviously the hours. A lot of the days can be like 9, 10, 11, sometimes 11-hour shifts, and it can be a bit hard to read sometimes, especially as I work like 4 or 5 days a week. So most weeks, um, family life is on top of that. I do try my best to read as much as I can when I'm at home, but again, it doesn't always pan out that way. But yeah, this is, like I said, this has been a very good reading month for me. So let's get on with my reading wrap up for the month of October, starting off with Leviathan's Wake by James S.A. Corey. I really enjoyed the TV series for this one, so I was going to check out the book. I'll have to reread this one at some point down the line because I actually started reading this in August. And I just kept putting it down, not coming back to it. I was reading other stuff in between. I guess I wasn't really in the mood for it, and then I kind of pushed through it in the end. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that happened like in the middle portion of this book, I don't exactly remember. But it was a decent read from what I do remember, and I will be checking out the other 8 books in this series. I hope to at some point anyway. But yeah, James S.A. Corey, Leviathan Wakes. Really enjoy this. So for those of you that aren't familiar with this book, it's set 200 years into the future. And basically humanity has colonized the solar system. So we're living on Mars, the moon, the asteroid belt, still living on Earth as well. But the solar system's at war. And basically this book follows Jim Holden, who's an officer on an ice miner making runs from the rings of Saturn to the mining stations of the belt. And yes, I did just read that off the back because, again, as I said, 2 months to read one book is insane, and I don't exactly remember all the ins and outs of this. So yeah, this one will be getting reread at some point, probably further down the line when I've checked out a couple more books in the series, or depending how long a gap it is before reading the next book in the series, because I don't own any of the other books in the series yet. But yeah, Leviathan Wakes. I did give it 4 stars, although, like I said, don't remember much of the middle portion. But it's quite a beefy book. It's nearly 600 pages, which for me is quite a long book anyway. But yeah, did enjoy this one. Follow the points of view of 2 main characters, but I think you have about 7 main characters in this that you kind of have to follow. It's a good cast of characters, and yeah, I just really enjoyed them. I cared a lot for some of the characters in here, so really good book. And yeah, can't wait to check out the rest of the series. As I said, Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. My next read is actually a reread for me. I read this one for the first time a couple years ago. I say read. I listened to the audiobook, and this was before realising audiobooks weren't for me, because I've realised over the last couple of years that if I listen to an audiobook, I'll enjoy it at the time, but then I'm more likely to forget what's happened in the book, which is why I'm trying to pick up more of the books that I've listened to on audio and then revisit them. So that's one of them, and that is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This one, like I said, is the only Grady Hendrix book I've read twice. I think the only book I've read twice now. And unfortunately, I want to read more from Grady Hendrix. I didn't read his book release from this year, 2025, which is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, I think it's called. I did, however, read How to Sell a Haunted House, which was my first introduction to him. I've read this and I've read Paperbacks from Hell. Really enjoyed this one. I love that this one's set in the 80s. I love that all the chapters, if I can find one, well, I suppose I could just turn to the first chapter, I guess. For those of you that aren't aware, all the chapters are named after really popular 80s songs. And of course the cover looks like an old school like VHS tape, so that's what I really like about this one as well. 5-star read. I gave it 5 stars after my first go around with the audiobook, but as I said, don't remember what really happened here, so went back, revisited it, and really enjoyed it. Maybe my favourite read of the month. Grady Hendrix, 5-star read for me with my best friend's Exorcism. So this follows high school sophomores Abby and Gretchen, who have been best friends since they were 4th grade. But after the skinny dipping goes disastrously wrong, Gretchen begins to act differently. She's moody, she's irritable, bizarre incidents keep happening whenever she's nearby. So if that doesn't sum up what effectively what this book's about, I don't know what it is. I can't really talk much about this without giving much more away, but just know that if you want to start with Grady Hendrix, I would highly recommend this book. Really good read, quite a quick one as well. The margins here are quite friendly as well. Wrong page to show you how friendly the margins are, but really good read from him, and yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this one. So my best friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. My third read of the month of October, Skeleton Crew, Stephen King. Another bit of a thicker book again. This one, I did enjoy it. I thought there was a lot of really strong short stories in here, told by Stephen King. Particularly, I'm going to read some of the list here to remind me what some of them are called. The Mist, The Monkey, The Wedding Gig, The Raft, Nona, Survivor Type, and The Reach. Oh, and Grammar were some of the standouts for me here. A couple of ones I didn't really care for too much, and there's a couple of poems in here that really did, like if you took those out, this would have been close 5 stars, if not for the stories I didn't really care for. Like I said, the standout ones for me were 4 and 5 stars. On average, I'd say most of the stories in here were about 4 stars, a couple of 3s, maybe a 2 on the poems, but very, very good collection of short stories, and a really good place to start if you want like loads of different horror related stories. A couple of them aren't horror related, but most of them are, so very good collection of short stories, and cannot wait to dive into more Stephen King. It was nice to read more King, as I hadn't read anything since Never Flinch came out, so it was nice to dive into that one. Decided to read a bit of a shorter one. As you can tell, this is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, and I didn't have that high of expectations going into this. I knew the book was like over 200 years old, so I was worried how the text would hold up or how relevant the book still was, and I was obviously pleasantly surprised by how well this book holds up for a book that's over 200 years old. And of course, my main reason for reading this was that there is the new film coming out in November, directed by Guillermo del Toro, which I will be checking out when that comes to Netflix. But obviously wanted to make sure I read the source material. I thought I knew the story, given how many adaptations and stuff we've had, but they don't even touch the surface of what goes on in here, and definitely worth reading if you're like me, a horror fan, or just want to check out a book. And I think this is probably the oldest book I've ever read up to this point. But yeah, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, very good book, very good novel. I would highly, highly recommend it. Again, don't let the margins intimidate you here, because this one, very quick, very easy to read book. yeah, really enjoyed this one from her. And then my last read for the month of October, actually kind of a letdown, sadly. This one is Incidents Around the House, Josh Malerman. I read Bird Box a couple years ago. It was one of the first books I ended up reading when I became a constant reader, because I saw the film, really liked it, wanted to check it out. The book, unsurprisingly, is better than the film. Who's surprised there? This one, I had higher expectations for going in. Honestly, I came out a bit disappointed in this. It follows it's the story of an 8-year-old girl, Bella, and it tells the story from her perspective. So yeah, it does get a bit repetitive at times. There's a couple of really creepy moments in here, which is why I gave it the score that I did of 3 stars. If it wasn't for those creepy moments, I honestly don't think I'd have stuck with this one. I didn't care for any of the characters really, other than Grandma Ruth, who I thought was a good character. She's actually probably the only one that really cared for Bella in this story for most of it. Obviously, the parents did care at the end about what she was going through. But yeah, like I said, some really creepy moments in here. It's a short one, so it's easy to get through. And as I said, the margins, look at how it's written. Like, it is basically written to be adapted to screen, and unfortunately it reads like a really bad horror film, where, you know, when you're watching a horror film and the main characters make a really bad poor decisions that no one would make in real life, and you're just shouting at the screen like, why are you doing that, why are you going in that room, why are you going there alone, you know, things like that. Every example of that in a horror film, I feel, is in this book. It's a shame because I wanted this to be better. Maybe if I was to reread it with lower expectations, I might enjoy it more. But for now, I gave it 3 stars just because it was a decent read, very fast paced. And as I said, there were a couple of creepy moments in here that made me think, actually, Josh Malerman is a decent writer. I think after Bird Box, I had my expectations a little too high going in. So this one, for my last read of October, a little bit disappointed, honestly, but we'll see what November brings, because I'm actually nearly finished my first book of November already. I know that I started it in the last couple days of October, so to nearly be finished with it already is pretty decent. But yeah, so anyway, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you have, make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, and if you read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them down in the comment section. Which book is your favorite out of this stack of books here, and which one's your least favorite, which ones did you enjoy, which ones did you not? And I'll link all of these down in the description below, as well as my Goodreads and my Bookstagram, should you guys want to follow me on those. So yeah, thank you very much for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye.